this Friday, February 16th, 2023. Welcome to the Sports Note. Yeah, you guys have seen a lot of me here in the last 24 hours. We actually had the Kevin Love live edition last night. We put out the Nikola Jokic piece yesterday. Today, we're actually going to talk something that we haven't done in several months, and that's a little college basketball. And ironically enough, it's kind of a mirror of something that we talked about at the very, very outset of the season. Remember, the last time we talked college basketball was the free fall of the North Carolina Tar Heels. The fact that the defending national runners-up were in an absolute tailspin, going from number one to completely outside the polls in the first few weeks, and were an absolute shell of themselves, and they've kind of gotten themselves righted a little bit. They could actually end up sneaking in as one of the first four in, could also be possibly one of the first four out. But one of the teams that's basically guaranteed to get in, it's all a matter now of, are they going to be on the one line? Could they slip to the two line? And that's the Purdue Boilermakers. The Boilermakers right now carry a record of 23-4. Problem is, the Boilermakers have lost three of their last four. They started off 13-0, fell to Rutgers, and then and it was Rutgers' first win over a number one overall team in the country in program history. And then Purdue proceeds to rattle off nine more wins after that in Big Ten play, and then again now has lost 3 of 4, with the most recent loss being yesterday to Maryland in a game that, uncharacteristically of Purdue in any of their losses, Purdue went absolutely ice cold in the second half. Maryland outscored Purdue 29-4 over the final 16 minutes of that game. The only points really put up were by Zach Edney, one from the floor, and then a basket from the floor and a couple of free throws, considering he was also the last one to score before Maryland went on that run. And Edney is Purdue's leading scorer at 22 a game. But again, mysteriously, Purdue's shooting went absolutely absent, and this is where, for a game that was largely close for the majority of it, when Maryland went on their run, they were only down 8 after taking a timeout, just 3.5 minutes into the second half. This was a situation where you would figure they would start to pull away a little bit. The Boilermakers were. Matt Painter has actually shown his team's got the ability to close out games late here. The only other loss on their schedule prior to snapping that second winning streak was to Indiana, 79-74, and the Hoosiers were ranked 21st. They're now up to 14th, and the Boilermakers have had a very, very strong grasp on number one for most of the season. This was something where naturally North Carolina fell out. Purdue kind of slotted themselves up after getting into the top 25. Then the following week, after upset wins over Gonzaga and Duke, shot themselves up 19 places all the way up to 6th, and then made a little bit more of a climb, got up to number one, and held a stranglehold on that until the Rutgers loss, slipped back to 3rd, got back up to 1, and then now with the loss against Indiana, won at home to Iowa, and then now have fallen in back-to-back games on the road against Northwestern and Maryland, are probably going to fall outside of the top 5 altogether. And this is something the committee's going to be thinking about. Now, even though the Big Ten tournament is still about 2 weeks away, the first of the conference tournaments won't begin until the 28th. Which is, ironically enough, less than just over 10 days away from now. We're going to see, as a matter of fact, next week is the final week of conference play for most programs. Some of your smaller schools are going to be starting their conference tournaments right as the calendar flips over to March. For Purdue, I'm looking at their schedule. They get to play Ohio State on Sunday. That'll be a nationally televised game. Ohio State is in shambles this year. They're a mess. Purdue's probably going to run them off the floor. Then you get the big rematch against Indiana on the 25th, and the fact that they're basically giving the Boilermakers an entire week off before that game, whereas the Ohio State game is essentially a tune-up for them, and then finishing at Wisconsin on March 2nd, and then home to Illinois. So again, 3 out of their last 4 at home going into this, especially after the back-to-back losses on the road against 2 teams that are definitely bound for the tournament. Maryland is 18-8, 9-6 in the Big Ten. Certainly no big surprise there. Northwestern is the team that everyone is starting to pay attention to. Northwestern is 19-7. They're going to get into the big dance for the first time, and I want to say it's like 40 years or something like that. Only the second time in program history, if memory serves on that correctly. They're only a game and a half out. They certainly should have a bye for the second round of the Big Ten tournament when that gets underway in Indianapolis here in a little over 2 weeks. But it's also something that Purdue is, again, they've got 4 games here. They've got the tune-up on Sunday. They need to right this ship, and they need to do it soon. And this is actually going to help them out because of the idea that the Indiana game should be one of the only ones that should challenge them. Illinois is probably going to be a tournament team, but they're going to be maybe between a 6 and a 10. Wisconsin is not going to get in. They're only 15-10. Ohio State definitely is not going to get in. So you got 4 games here, and then you've probably got a game or 2 to be able to, right things up before your stiffer competition shows up in the semifinals of the Big Ten tournament. This is something where Indiana could potentially snag the Big Ten championship away from Purdue. They've got all the capabilities to do so, but Purdue right now, they've got a lot riding on this because now with these back-to-back losses and then the slipping, you're seeing UCLA come on. Even though Alabama got beat earlier this week, Alabama's still going to be on that one line. Houston is certainly going to be on that one line. UCLA is going to be on that one line with the way that, again, that they're playing as of recently, just comeback after comeback after comeback. Do not count out the defending champion Jayhawks. Texas also playing extremely well, and I think Kansas and Texas meet up in one of their final few games before the Big 12 tournament, and who's to say that they don't meet in the Big 10 tournament. But Purdue, if they want to stay on that one line, considering that you're going to have regional games in Des Moines, and then you've also got games in Dayton this year. Could it be something that if Purdue falters, they go from maybe being on the one line and playing, in a Detroit, in a Des Moines or in a Dayton, or possibly even in a Columbus, where it's not that far of travel for them? Could they end up getting shipped to somewhere like Denver or Sacramento, who's hosting first or second rounds? And then the regional, you would figure that they would probably be put into Louisville. As long as they don't end up Houston, if Houston holds serve, they're going to basically be playing home games because the regionals are going to be held in Houston this year. If Purdue falters, they could be in Louisville. They could end up going to Kansas City. They could get shipped all the way out west to Vegas. But if you were to slot the top 4 right now, I would actually have to say Purdue would be on that one line. I got to go Houston. I got to go Alabama. And then I also would have to go UCLA with that. And that's actually not just running chalk by the top 4 teams in the country, but but you would certainly put Houston at home. You would actually put UCLA out in Vegas. You would put Purdue in Louisville, and then that actually means that Alabama kind of gets the short end here, having to go to Kansas City, unless you actually put Alabama in Louisville, and then you put Purdue in the Kansas City region. But it's very, very interesting to see how these last couple of weeks are going to play out, especially with the fact of how the Big Ten might end up sending 7, 8, maybe 9 teams, but yet there's only 2 of them that have a legitimate shot to make any kind of noise in this tournament, and it's the 2 that we just mentioned, Indiana and Purdue. You've got a lot of watered down teams that might get a win or 2 in the tournament, but aren't expected to really go anywhere. This is something where the big boys that you're seeing now, those are going to be your teams that are going to be at the forefront when we're actually getting towards the Final Four, which is going to be in Houston. And then it's I'm sorry, correct me. The Final Four is in Houston. The regional is going to be one of the regionals is going to be in New York City, and that's the first time I actually remember that's going to be in like Madison Square Garden. So it's the map that I was looking at was coded improperly, so I apologize for that little tangent. So yeah, if I go back and I think about it, you would possibly put Alabama in New York City. I would think that maybe you could make an argument that the top overall seed could end up going in New York City, for the marquee management, or who's going to be the most marketable. Could you see a scenario where UCLA, because of the fact that they're UCLA, gets thrown into New York City because people are going to come out to MSG for that? But the idea of Purdue now going to be losing their 2 first place votes either to Houston or to UCLA to be able to, and UCLA certainly sneaking up into the top 3 when the new polls come out on Sunday, just goes to show really we're in silly season in college basketball, and it's the best time of the year. We are picking the field of 64 3 weeks from Sunday. We're going to be turning the clocks. We're going to be turning the clocks forward here. We're going to be losing that hour of sleep. I want to say maybe the same day, and then we're going to have the first 4 in Dayton, and then we'll kick everything off just 2 days before St. Patrick's Day. And how much fun is this tournament going to be? Because you're going to have this is not your dad's tournament anymore. When you've got Alabama, Tennessee, Houston, Purdue all up at the top, and then you've got Duke falling back, you've got Gonzaga falling back, Kansas is still going to be there, Texas is still going to be there, but your Michigans are nowhere to be found, your Villanovas are nowhere to be found, your North Carolina right now is nowhere to be found. This is not, we're seeing a changing of the guard here in college basketball, and these are the tournaments that usually end up being a lot more fun. Arizona's back to being relevant, even though a lot of people here hate Arizona. Baylor's back to being, among the top dogs after winning the thing a couple of years ago. Marquette is back up there, and how good does it look to actually have Marquette back being this good? St. Mary's, Creighton, Iowa State, UConn back in the fold, TCU, Providence, Florida Atlantic cracking the top 25. Kansas State. Talk about, schools achieving above and beyond in both football and basketball. You see what Kansas State and TCU did in the Big 12 in football just a couple of months ago, and now here they are going to be in the mix for a Big 12 championship in basketball. So let me know what you guys think. I will actually be back with you guys sometime next week. Again, we'll have an update on the Wiseies here very, very shortly. And everyone, take care. Enjoy your weekend. It's going to be a little bit of downtime, for yours truly. I definitely need it. And enjoy NBA All-Star Weekend. We'll talk to you soon.